How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Emerald City Hockey post-game live. I am here at home. Unfortunately, couldn't be at the game. Of course, all games to miss, this had to be the one. But I'm homesick this evening. But wow, what a game for the Seattle Kraken! 5-1 victory over the Washington Capitals. It's a good game to get everything kind of flowing right for the Kraken, especially because they've only got one more home game before then they're going to finish this stretch of season before the Olympic break off on the road. Feels like this is a good way to kind of build some momentum going into that Olympic break, try to get things right again after the latest stretch of losing. This is definitely going to be much needed 2 points in the standings from this one. Not just because the Kraken needed 2 points, but also because every other team around them in the standings won this evening. So this keeps them pace with everybody else. But just a dominant game from the Kraken. I mean, you look at the shot differential in this one, particularly early on, first period, 13-4 Seattle. I mean, just incredibly dominant from them. First line was absolutely on fire in this one. All three guys get a goal in this one. Matty Beniers, Jared McCann gets two. Jordan Eberle gets one. I know we're going to talk about the missed hat trick for Jared McCann, the would-be hat trick, the thing that everybody thought was a hat trick. I'm just going to wait like a tiny bit to get into that because I believe, have an explanation for how that all went down and what went down with it. So we'll get into that in just a second, but I want to kind of wait for as many people as possible to get in here before we break that down. Yeah, this was just a really stellar performance from the Kraken all the way around. Philip Grubauer did a good job in this one as well, made some pretty big clutch saves for the Kraken and had to do it in a game where he wasn't facing a lot of shots, particularly early. And we know Philip Grubauer talks about that a lot. He wants to see those shots. He wants to get into a rhythm. I'm sure it was a little difficult with only 4 of them in the first period for him to do that, but battled through it, had a great game, only gave up the 1 goal on the power play to Alex Ovechkin. You know, so is just about every other goalie in the NHL. So what are you going to do about that one, right? Yeah, this was a really solid performance from the Seattle Kraken tonight, and I can't wait to talk about it with you all here on Post Game Live, presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. It's been a minute since I've been able to do one of these live streams and talk about the beer hall, but excited for our watch party later on in February at the Moss Bay Hall location. Really excited about that. Excited to go back there. We don't talk a lot about desserts, but I guess, did I do this last time? Did I talk about the beignets last time I was on here? I might have, because I was so excited about it. But I feel like, we tend to, when the goalies get a shutout, we all go and we get the donuts the next morning. What about for a good solid win and a 1-goal performance? Get beignets at Queen Anne Beer Hall. That sounds pretty good to me. It's sort of the same thing, but very, very good, especially with all the sauces, the jam, the Nutella, all of that stuff that comes with them. Oh, they're so good. So it's not just about the $5 smash burgers, the $8 draft beers after the games at Queen Anne Beer Hall. You can also walk down that hill from CPA and get a very delicious dessert as well. So just wanna throw that out there for everybody. All right, so let's get into things here. We got Jason kicking us off in the comment section. So that's what happens when you score first, last, and most of the goals in the middle. Yeah, you get a pretty dominant performance like the Kraken were able to tonight. Washington just looked a little out of it. I don't know. Maybe it was the time change got to them, but they really struggled to deal with the Kraken's rush offense. Kraken were able to generate a lot of chances with speed going through the neutral zone. Washington didn't have too much of a response to that, especially once the Kraken started scoring. Then the Capitals started pinching up in the offensive zone more and more. We were getting more and more odd man rush opportunities coming back the other way. And then also, they were very eager to try to fly their zone. They had their wingers playing up very high in the defensive zone, their center playing up high in the defensive zone. Their defensemen were trying to take steps up. The moment it looked like there might be a turnover, they were trying to take steps up in the defensive zone, try to get as many bodies moving towards the offensive zone as possible. And the Kraken did a good job of adjusting to that starting in the second period. And they were able to really take advantage of then those gaps. Whenever there was a situation like that, they found if they can just kind of dive bomb in there on the puck or throw it over, take a swipe at a puck, try to get it knocked over towards one of the other Kraken players on the ice, Washington was going to leave them alone and wide open. And almost every goal tonight was basically scored that way. It was either an odd man rush opportunity or an attack off the rush, or it was a rebound or a play in the offensive zone for the Kraken where the Washington defenders had already kind of taken a step, thought something different was happening, and then they just weren't there to deal with anything. The amount of goals in this one that the Kraken were able to score with just no D in anywhere around them was kind of staggering, and it was pretty remarkable. So I don't know what that was about, but they were able to do that and take advantage of it. And I think that that's something that the Kraken need to, and want to be looking more and more to do and get things done that way. And it's certainly good to see the first line take advantage of that in the way that we know that they can. Springs Jared McCann and Matty Beniers, I believe, up to point per game for 2026. It's about a month in. It's pretty good. Love the way that Jared McCann coming back, being healthy, has really helped to wake up that line, wake up Matty. They're able to score more consistently than they were able to, and Matty Beniers getting goals. Another goal in close on the goaltender there for Matty, but still, just really nice to see him be able to have this production. And of course, the 4-point night for Jared McCann is nothing to sneeze at either. Great multi-point performance and multi-goal performance from him as well. Got a super chat here from Greg Reed. I'm ready, man. Got the lemon lime Gatorade time, baby. Father Canner had a 4-point night. Beniers and Ebbs were cooking too. I was just talking about that first line for the Kraken and Jared McCann and his 4 points. And yes, I've been down in these Gatorades trying to fight off whatever I've got. And I will definitely be taking sips of this throughout post game, trying to start strong, last till RJ joins us, and then he can carry us. That's the idea. But appreciate the super chat, appreciate the Gatorade. And yeah, Jared McCann is just, he's so good when he's able to be in this lineup. I mean, whenever he's just playing hockey, right, he's good. It's obviously that could only happen when he's in the lineup. But he's just been so fantastic for them. And a lot of it has to do with his ability to find those gaps in the offensive zone that the defense has left. You look at his goals this evening, it's all of those situations. You want to take the hat trick goal that didn't count. You look at that play, it's again him recognizing what the other team's doing, taking advantage of it. What I love about Jared McCann is a lot of times no two goals look the same. If you look at his goal highlights from last game to this game to the next game, they're all different scenarios. They're all different situations. Sometimes it's him sniping. Sometimes it's him taking advantage of odd man rush opportunities or rushing attack opportunities. Other times it's stuff like tonight where he's just hanging out in a defensive weak spot behind the D to the side of the goaltender. He's available. He's there for rebounds. He understands where the puck is going. That's just the sign of a really, really good hockey player, using their hockey sense, understanding the situations around them, and finding those places to score. It's sustainable. It's just a joy to watch how he attacks different teams based on what they're doing, particularly after that first period has gone by. You can tell he's the kind of player that wants to watch that film during that first intermission, takes in everything that he saw while he was on the bench and out there on the ice, and then is able to apply himself differently for then the subsequent periods to try to find those gaps defensively that he can take advantage of and get his goals like he did tonight. Got another super chat, this one from Edward. Not since that time that the magician fell into a zoo enclosure have zebras robbed us of a hat trick. Beautiful, by the way. Magician fallen into the zoo. The zebras robbing us of the hat trick. That is very good, Edward. As always, absolutely fantastic, and appreciate the super chat to go along with it. It really feels like a good 2-for-1 there. All right, so we'll get into the Jared McCann hat trick. I was just talking about him and the goal scoring. We'll get into the situation there. So I guess just to recap for anybody who didn't watch the game live, but you're watching this maybe the next morning. Situation earlier on in the third period, Kraken defending things in their own zone. Puck gets shot up into the neutral zone. Jared McCann goes away with it. He's got a breakaway. He shoots. He scores. Hat trick goal. The hats come raining down onto the ice. Everybody's ecstatic. And then we get an announcement while they're picking up the hats. over the PA system from the officials that they are reviewing a high stick 4-minute penalty on Matty Beniers. So this is at least my understanding, and it was nice to have some other people talking about it on Discord. Shout out to Hexagon on Discord for also kind of coming to the same conclusion and us kind of working this out there. The idea here is, and why this whole situation went down, and I'm going to preface this by saying from the beginning, and I'll walk you through it, but I just want to prepare everybody. I do believe that the officials called it correctly according to the rule book, but as I usually talk about, and as RJ sometimes talks about on here, the problem that I have with the officials is not the call that they made, because I do think that, despite the rule book's flimsy logic, they actually did follow it. It's the fact that we did not get an explanation of anything that I'm going to tell you all, like upcoming here, from the official. That the officials never give an explanation when they're out there on the ice, so that the people in the arena, the people watching at home, the broadcasters understand the logic. The fact that we all then had to piecemeal it together for the next 5 minutes after play had resumed is inexcusable to me. That is the part about officiating, because we talked about the officiating a couple streams ago, actually, and how the NHL officiating, as much as we all like to rag on it, it's pretty good compared to any other hockey league in the world. NHL officials get it right way more than anybody else. And again, I think they got it right in this scenario. What I think is inexcusable and what the league has to start mandating is that officials explain their process of how they came to the conclusion they came to the arena, to the fans in the building, particularly in a moment like this where you're taking a goal off the board, a hat trick goal, no less. Fans deserve an explanation. Okay. And it's ridiculous to me that they don't get it during the game. And if you're not going to give it to them during the game, then the very least you can do is release a statement after the game. And the NHL will do neither. That's just what they do. They don't do anything. And that pisses me off a lot, because I think it's one thing to make the calls, the difficult calls, home fans aren't happy, whatever. I get it. That's their job. The least you could do, though, is explain it to everybody so that we all don't have to try to figure it out ourselves. That should not happen, especially in circumstances like this, where it's more obscure rules and technicalities in sequence, like multiples of them lined up together to create the scenario that we got. So the scenario that we got, and this is at least my best understanding of what happened here. When there is a high sticking penalty, and particularly one that results in an injury, aka drawing blood, 4-minute double minor situation, the linesmen, if they see it, are allowed to call that penalty. Now they don't do the official calling. They don't put their arms up and they don't go and announce it to the crowd, but they're able to see it, note it, and then communicate it to the official. And then the official makes the call based on what the linesman saw. It's one of the few penalties that a linesman can directly see and then go to the official and have the official call it, because it's a dangerous play and it's a dangerous situation. Now, when a linesman sees the high stick that results in potential injury, which is what they saw with Matty Beniers, that happened, I think, 37 seconds before the goal was scored. One of two things has to happen there. One, if the injury is deemed bad enough, and this is up to the linesman discretion, they do blow a whistle and they stop play immediately, and then they go and they assist the player that was injured on the play, and they communicate what they saw to the official, and then everything kind of proceeds from there. If they think that there was injury, but it wasn't bad enough to result in stopping play immediately, then the linesman has to wait until the next stoppage, the next organic stoppage in the game, to then communicate to the official what they saw. And that's what happened this evening. Was the linesman saw the play, the Matty Beniers, the high stick, makes note of it, doesn't think it's bad enough to call it in the moment, but knows that it's bad enough and it did result in some form of injury for the Washington player, has to wait. And the next stoppage we got was the Jared McCann goal. And so skates over to linesman convene right away with the officials. They then announce the call. Now, from the official side of things, this is where the injury portion of it or the believed injury is so important. Because the official doesn't see it themselves, they're not going to just directly call the penalty. What they're then, you know, elected to do, or what they're told to do, is they announce it as a double minor, 4-minute high sticking, so that it can then be reviewed, because double minor high stick penalties can be reviewed. And that's what they did this evening. That's why they announced it 4-minute double minor. So now the officials can go back, look at it, see if it was in fact high sticking, if it was a friendly player stick, what the situation was. And from there, the officials can decide that there was no penalty and take, just there is no penalty called. They review it and they find that there's no penalty and it's called off. They could review it and determine that, you know what, we don't think that caused, the blood that we then saw on the player. It actually hit him in a different spot. He was just bleeding from something else, and they could reduce it down to a 2-minute high stick. Or, as is the case this evening, they review it and they see, no, in fact, Matty Beniers did high stick the player, did result in blood. It's a double minor high sticking penalty, and they call it, and everything that happened in the game after that gets erased, and it goes back to the point that the Kraken touch up on the puck. So that's the sequence, is that it's linesmen are allowed to make high sticking calls, although not directly, which is why we don't get the delayed call from them. We don't get an arm up and we don't get the immediate whistle, because it was deemed that the injury was not severe enough to demand an immediate whistle from the linesman. And by the way, the NHL rulebook is unbelievably vague and leaves it up to official and linesman discretion on just about any penalty. I do recommend, if you're somebody who finds yourself having a lot of issues with officials watching NHL games, take a look at the rulebook, read through how the rulebook, the official NHL rulebook, it's on the NHL website, lists what penalties are and how much of it is just left up to the interpretation of whoever's out there on the ice. I think it gives you a good idea of why we see calls when we see calls, why at times things are not called and why at times other things are called, and that there is somewhat a lack of consistency there. That inconsistency is baked into the vague wording of the rule book. So if you have an issue with it, it's not so much the officials on the ice that's a problem. It's the officials that craft the rule book that are the problem. Anyway, going back to it. So again, it's up to the linesman's discretion on how bad that injury was. Determine that it was a high stick that results in injury, but not bad enough to blow the play dead. Has to then wait for the next stoppage. That next stoppage is a goal. Communicates to the officials. The officials do what they're supposed to do, which is call it a double minor with a video review. They review it, determine that it was actually a penalty. They make the call. That is how it's supposed to happen. It's a ridiculous situation. This is a situation that you're not going to see again for like another 1,000 games. But it is a situation that's popped up before, and this is how it's designed to go down. It's horrible for everybody in arena, especially because of the hat trick. Oh my gosh, right? Like that just cranks this whole thing up to 11. But it's horrible for everybody in arena. It's horrible for the broadcasters. It's horrible for those of us watching at home, because all the official had to do was walk us through that process. Now, I don't know that Kraken fans in the arena would have let him get through the process of walking us through that. I think there would have been a lot of noise from the crowd. But I think that that's one of those things where the fans in some capacity deserve that explanation directly from the officials making the call, or from the league that has set up the rule book in a way that is how these calls go down, and just to explain this process out. I think that is just something fans who pay good money to go to a game deserve when these complicated technical calls are made. I just think that's the way it should be. And that's not what they did tonight. And so I do not have the issue with the penalty and the goal being erased and all of that. I think that was all done according to the rule book and the powers that the officials and linesmen have on the ice. But I have a big issue with them not disclosing that, or talking us through it, or giving anybody in that arena an idea of what happened. Because that to me is horrible. And it's something that they should want too, because I guarantee you all 17,000 fans in that arena now just hate officials. because they just see a hat trick goal get taken away on something that seems ridiculous. There was no delayed penalty. There was no arm up. It's 37 seconds after the thing happened, and yet the Kraken were able to control the puck and everything, right? It's one of those things that feels illogical, but there was a specific logic, and that logic was the NHL rule book and its vague wordings, and it's leaving everything up to interpretation in the moment for both officials and linesmen, and it's just a ridiculous situation. That's just the way it is. Now, thankfully, it did not have a big result on the game. The Kraken are able to still win the game 5-1. Jared McCann's able to get another point and assist on the Matty Beniers goal. It does take away the shutty from Grubauer because the Capitals were able to get the 4-minute power play off the double minor. They are able to score on one of them, and that does take away the shutout for Philip Grubauer. But it could have been a lot worse. Could have really been a bad momentum change back the other way. But that's my understanding of the sequence and what happened this evening on the ice and why it happened. And again, I'm upset at the officials, not for the call, but for how they handled the call. I think that's like kind of the appropriate place to be, at least for me it is, because I'm just so sick and tired of whenever there's situations like this, just not getting any explanations and having to figure it out later. Like that, it shouldn't be that way. No self-respecting league should let that happen. And yet the NHL lets it happen all the time. Got a couple more super chats here, and then I'm sure a lot of comments as well to get to based off of everything that I just talked about. But I'll get through these super chats first. Schultz with the super chats. Appreciate it. Last season, a goal taken off the board would have broken the Kraken, let alone two. Lane Lambert seems to have a way to refocus this team. He really does. I'm with you. Last season, that would have been such a momentum shift. You're talking about, then at that point, you're still up 3-0, but you would have seen the Capitals probably score on both power plays. You probably see them then get a ton of momentum. It would be 3-2, and they'd find a way to tie it, and the Kraken probably lose in overtime. I'm absolutely with you, Schultz. Lane Lambert has these guys, I don't want to say figured out, but he definitely has them in a place where they are able to fight and battle through adversity in a way that we just have not seen a Seattle Kraken team be able to do, at least consistently this deep into a season, coming off of another rough patch where you've lost most of your games. In all past seasons, and when those scenarios play out, we don't see the team rally the way that this team rallies when these things pop up. And I think that is a huge credit to Lane Lambert and the rest of the staff. I don't want to sell them short, because I'm sure they also play a big role in it. But it is definitely a difference with this team. And yeah, you are correct. There was a second goal taken off the board for the Kraken, the Ryan Winterton goal, because of goaltender interference from Jacob Melanson. Again, that to me was a pretty clear-cut goalie interference call. Jacob Melanson skates through the crease. He's not bumped into Logan Thompson at all. He just cuts it too close. He makes contact with Logan Thompson's stick. It opens up his arm. That's exactly where the goal ends up going in. That's going to be called every time. I don't have an issue with that call. Again, I have an issue with the fact that there's no explanation. They just come out, they just say, after video review is determined there was goaltender interference, no goal. Just take the 30 extra seconds to explain what happened, dude. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. And then super chat here from Dave. What a game. So proud of the team after that game. Top line went off. That they did, Dave. And thank you very much for the super chat. This was a very, very, very good game for the Seattle Kraken. I don't want everything to just get lost in the officiating. I do want it, this was a dominant performance for the Kraken long before the officiating and the hat trick scenario and everything played out. Kraken absolutely dominated the first two periods of this game. And then, as we were just talking about with the Schultz super chat, they were able to rally afterwards and continue to dominate the rest of this game. That is a huge, huge thing for me. I think that it's gone a long way in shoring up my belief that the team is legit and for real in this, potential playoff scenario that they're fighting for. And I want that to kind of be the case for everybody, because I do think like this was a very good game for showcasing that and what they can do. And certainly a great game for the top line. But I do understand that the officiating situation was big. Was big. Um, all right. Let me go back over here into the comment section. More Melanson, and I want it now from General Pancakes. Yeah, Jacob Melanson, just he's absolutely incredible when he's in the lineup and what he brings to this team and everything. I mean, again, just what he actually does, right, with the hits and everything like that, but it just has to do with the mentality that he brings, the energy that that provides. You saw it after the fight that he gets into at the end of this one, the bench, they're all standing up, they're cheering him on. They feel that. They're going to feel that the next game. Like that, it's just such positive stuff. Just such positive stuff. Absolutely love what he's able to bring to the lineup, and whether it's opening up lanes and opportunities in the offensive zone, right, being net front and providing the screen on the Ryan Winterton goal, even though he did goaltender interference on it. There will be times where he doesn't make contact with the goalie, and that goal will count, and that's just Melly putting in the work. So love what Jacob Lonson's been doing out there. Kraken Queen, I had to tune in to radio broadcast, and I will never get tired of hearing Fitz turn into a boxing announcer. He handles those situations so perfectly. I love the way Ever Fitz you handles those situations. They are absolutely fantastic. Let's see here. The first and only game I wasn't upset with Stevenson's effort from Matthew Weiss. Yeah, no, this was a good Stevie game. It was a good Stevie game. I thought he was really good. Again, he got like interesting matchups in this one because they wanted Melanson out there with Tom Wilson. So there was times where Stevie was matched up against the fourth line, but no, it was a good Stevenson performance. I do believe that. Kraken should have a hat sale. So that is what I'm interested. I'm interested to see if the Kraken do something to kind of make it up for fans who were there and may have thrown their hat on the ice, because there was a decent amount of hats that made it down there to the ice for a hat trick that never was, right? And so it will be interesting to see if the team does anything for people, if the was it Deal of the Deep? No, that's not what it's called. But the in-game deal at the lair next game is a hat. It would be interesting. And when you do that, Kraken, if you're listening, don't make the hat $15. Make it $10. Like, come on. Like $15 is still too much for a hat. I'm sorry. It just is. Hats, I don't know. Hats are like so expensive now. You get like a fun hat, it's like $40. It's insane. It's not worth it. So there you go. There's my other rant for the evening here. Bob, just want to mention the Kraken network crew is trying to figure out who called the double minor on Beniers. They're claiming the linesman can whistle a call if the refs missed. Yes, that's what I just talked about and explained. I know I'm higher up in the lineup, but I just want to reiterate for anybody new coming in or maybe didn't catch it. That is how it works. That's what they are correct in what they're doing there. And then Blake, that was a high hockey IQ game, not a good game for a newbie. Certainly when it came to the rule book, that definitely was definitely was not a game for the uninitiated. That is for sure. It was a tough one. That was a tough one for sure. Post game, Allison and company trying to break down the McCann goal taken away. They're not happy with the rule. Mostly, it sounds like from Blake. I would imagine, yeah, like it sucks. Like I'm not happy with it, even though I think I've figured out the logic, and we figured out the logic on Discord, and it makes sense to me, and it checks out. It seems to pass the sniff test with the rule book. I'm still not happy with it because you don't explain it. You don't like they shouldn't have to be figuring this out on post game. They should just know because the official communicated that to everybody, right? I also think that there was a question around the clock, and I do think they messed up the clock because that 37 seconds, 40 seconds, whatever it was, should have been put back on the clock. If you're erasing everything that happened and going back to when that penalty, the change of possession after the penalty is called, you have to put that time back on the clock. And obviously it helps the Kraken that it's not there on the clock, but they should have put the time back on the clock. That's another one. Like that's also something that should have happened that didn't happen. I don't know. It's so messy, so unneededly messy. I don't get it. Is this a case of the East paying less attention to the West and not knowing how the Kraken want to play, from Jason? It's possible that there's an element of that. My guess is it's probably less that and more so just the time difference getting to them, or just for they could have a sickness running through the room or something like that. I'm not too familiar with what the goings on is for the Capitals right now, but they definitely did not show up like ready to play in this one. They got their butts kicked from the beginning by a team that does not generally start playing right away. Like I think that's one of the big ones in this is the Kraken are not a first period team. The Kraken dominated that first period. I don't know if I don't know that just not having the pre scout is enough to showcase that. But I do think in general you are correct. There is a little bit of figuring out the game that happens when you have the teams playing on the opposite coast. RJ in here saying that Ebbs says he was told the linesman called the high sticking penalty, and that from Ebbs quote it was the right call, but he didn't know it was an option. So there you go. Everly didn't even know that it was an option. Should make us all feel better about that. Monty almost became the second player to score on his bobblehead night. Still only Alexander Wedenberg from Savvy Santana there. That is interesting, isn't it? Kraken are not shy about giving out bobbleheads. There are so many bobbleheads given out by this organization, which is awesome for the fans. But it's kind of crazy that then we've still only had one instance of somebody scoring on their bobblehead night. You would think that it would happen more just because there's so many opportunities for it. Granted, I guess half of them are defensemen, and even somebody as great as Brandon Montour, how many games is a defenseman really scoring in the game, right? You know, um, from B, what I don't get is if they call it despite the long delay, why wasn't time added back to the clock? If nothing after the penalty was valid play, why did the game restart at the time of the goal? That's my question too. That's the one part of it that I don't understand, B, and I'm right there with you on that one. Time absolutely should have been back on the clock. I don't know why they wouldn't have done that. We got from Chuck. Earlier there was a record check with Melanson in the lineup. Chuck has done the work for us. Thank you, Chuck. I was not able to swing that here while hosting. So I appreciate you doing this and putting it in chat. The record with Melanson in the lineup is 11-5-2 for the Kraken, which is a 6-6, I'll say 7 points percentage. That would be a 109 point pace over the whole season. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm kind of thinking they need to leave him in the lineup. I just saying. And I was not trying to do a 6-7 thing there, by the way, everybody. I was just trying to shorten it to only 3 spots after the decimal. That is all I was doing. I just didn't want to list sixes forever repeating. Bob, if the linesman can tell the ref and it results in a penalty, they should be able to blow the play dead. Otherwise, what's the point? You don't want too many people, I guess, with whistles out there blowing play dead in case, linesmen are junior to the officials. I don't know how you want to call it. The officials are senior to the linesmen. It's one of those situations where you don't want a linesman who has not been trained as much in that scenario to blow play dead and potentially have something result, have something not end up resulting over a wrong call. That's why the 4-minute penalty is called, so that they can review it. Like that's like the reason that it kind of shapes out this way. So that's why there's not just 4 officials on the ice and they have the separation between the linesmen too, is because there's just so much more training and everything that goes into being an official that linesmen don't have. So you don't want to give linesmen the ability to blow plays dead, unless again there's a serious injury, in which case they can do that. But that would be the idea anyway, I'm sure, if we were to ask them. Stratic, does Dylan like Dylan McElrath more or less due to sharing a name? I don't know that I have I guess I like Dylan McElrath, even though his Hershey Bears team have defeated the Firebirds, including the game 7 I was at in Coachella Valley. But met him back at his draft in 2010. Very nice guy. Still a nice guy after meeting him in Coachella Valley and everything. So yeah, good stuff there. All right, we've got RJ here, which is good. I'm just starting to peter out here after everything. RJ, how was the mood in the locker room and from Lane Lambert?
Well, thanks for holding it down, Dylan. Sorry it took a little bit longer, but mood in the locker room was happy. It was joyous after this big win for the Kraken, and I mean, you'd expect it to be, right. The guys, weren't too heartbroken about the hat trick that Jared McCann was robbed of. There were a lot of laughs about it after the game. McCann says he did not hold Matty Beniers, hold that against him. The high sticking penalty, and Matty he seemed more disappointed about it himself. Just like, yeah, it was crappy, sorry. But and he said it was like 2 minutes before the goal happened. But yeah, it was interesting. We were all kind of trying to get to the bottom of what exactly happened on that sequence and on that play. So Jordan Eberle said the explanation from the officials to him was something about that the linesman had called it. And as soon as I heard him say that, I knew the rule and what he was referring to. He said he didn't really know that was an option. Jared McCann didn't really know that was possible either. Part of it was a kind of us educating the players with our newfound knowledge about the rules and how this all works. So yeah, we kind of told Jared McCann that's basically how it works. He wasn't really aware of all that was even possible. I mean, we weren't really until it happened and we had to kind of look it up and everything. And then that makes sense to me. Like, the linesman thing, they flag it for the next stoppage. I'm sure you've explained it plenty on this post game already. What I didn't understand was why they didn't put the time back on the clock to where the penalty was. And I asked Lane Lambert about that. I said, just one more thing on that. I'm curious, why didn't they put the time back on the clock to where the penalty was? And he said that he hadn't noticed that they didn't do that. So from there, I was out of follow-up questions. I'm still left with the mystery. Lambert and the coaching staff didn't catch that. So I maybe I was the only one who caught it. I don't know.
No, there was definitely people on Discord, people in chat here we've talked about that. I did not catch it in the moment, but everybody's brought it up since, and I agree that was missed. My guess is because of everything going on and how many moving pieces, the officials just missed it too, right? Like it has to be it.
If I was the Kraken coaching staff and I did catch it,
you wouldn't want anything. Yeah, no,
I wouldn't say anything.
Why would
the less time left, the better when you're up 3-0. Yeah, so I wouldn't have drawn attention to it.
Yeah. We got this from Cheryl. Allison, there's been lots of talk about the post game for the Kraken trying to figure out the situation here and everything. People talking about how kind of speechless they were at times. But this from Cheryl. Allison called out the league wanting to have the ability to have a designated reporter talk to the ref and ask for an explanation after the game, similar to the NFL. I would be all for that. I said it earlier. Refs either need to explain it on the ice, preferably to everybody there in the building, or at the very least, you have to get a statement from them after the game when you run into these situations that are unusual and highly technical and in some ways kind of subjective, which so many of the calls are because of how the rule book is.
Yeah, absolutely. I would very much be in support of that. It's something that other leagues are doing to great success. I don't know why the NHL is so behind on it. And even with the goal reviews, like when the situation room reviews a play like that for goalie interference or whatever, they do put out a written explanation. I mean, usually it's not much of one, but they do put something out there trying to explain what it is that they've done. That doesn't apply to a situation like this, and I think it really ought to.
Yeah, no, it should. And it's not going to be something that's going to be abused and people are going to be going to officials all the time about all this stuff or whatever. But when these things pop up, which happen, right? Situations where there's the intent to blow the whistle, whatever, the situations that greatly confuse fans, particularly fans in the building that then don't get some sort of explanation from the broadcast afterwards. You need to have that communication to them. Like it just has to be there. Because and you would think the officials would want it as much as they don't want to have to go on the record. But like all 17,000 people who are at this game, RJ, are just going to hate NHL officials after this because they don't know what happened, that it was technically a correct call.
Yeah, I'd say about 17,000. The official attendance, 17,151. I probably rounded at about 17,000. That probably weren't aware of what exactly was happening. I think that's even generous to say, maybe 100 people in the building.
But you got to take out the Caps fans. They were probably fine with it.
Yeah, they were probably okay with it. But I mean, as far as understanding it, I think very few people in the building would have, and that's entirely fair for a situation like this. You need that communication. It was a really unfortunate next stoppage that happened to be the hat trick goal. Again, I've never seen anything like this. I've watched a lot of hockey games in my life. I know you have too. never seen anything like this. I can't
Yeah.
think of another example. And you know how my memory is. I think I would be able to recall something if I had seen it. It was unfortunate. I know Jared McCann felt bad for the fans who had tossed their hats. He did mention that in the post-game press. He was like, "Yeah, I just feel bad for all the fans who lost their hats."
Yeah, we're curious if the Kraken are going to do anything about that, or at least make the deal of the game for the next game hats or something to
Right.
kind
Well,
of
because
make
they
up for
do
it.
have the hat deal, right, for the hat trick
Mhm.
where they have a deal off the hat. I think that'd be a good move for them to do that. Of course, it's too soon for them to like make
Yeah,
that
we
executive
don't
decision
know.
right
Yeah,
now. But I think they should do something like that.
they should do something. Yeah. Got a super chat here from Dave. RJ, RJ, RJ. Okay, RJ, put your hands in the air and raise the roof for us after that game. There we go.
Raise the roof.
Hey, we talked for a while. That's what it was going to take to get the Kraken to win in that building. But they didn't need that tonight, RJ. And despite having, also a second goal taken off the board, they're able to score 5 on Logan Thompson. They only allowed the 1 on the power play to Alex Ovechkin. I mean, just your thoughts on the way the Kraken actually performed. Because long before the Jared McCann hat trick goal comes off the board, you're looking at 2 periods where the Kraken dominated this game.
Yeah, they really did. And so I'm pleased with the effort from the Kraken from start to finish. I feel like it's one of the rare games this season where I feel like the Kraken played pretty well the entire time and they won the game. It's rare those two things actually come together, but I'm always happy when that happens. I think early on I tweeted about it, but I thought the forechecking was excellent. They were super aggressive on the forecheck, and I think they kind of set the tone against the Capitals blue line that was really beat up. They were missing a couple key blue liners in Matt Roy and who's the other one? I'm totally blanking on the other one. I got the okay. Here's the thing. I got the other one right when I was talking to someone after the game, and then forgot Matt Roy, and so I remembered Matt Roy. Anyway, they were
Sure.
down 2 key defenders. Rasmus Sandin, that's the one.
Yep.
So they were down 2 of their key defenders. That really hurt them, and I think the Kraken sensed blood in the water. They wanted to go and forecheck them into oblivion, and I think by the end of the game, the Caps were just completely hapless defending. They looked again. It was a lifeless effort from them most of the game, but especially at the end, they were just completely inept on the defensive side of things. But I think that's due in large part to the pressure the Kraken were putting on them.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Sorry, it just jumped on me here. I wanted to talk about Jacob Melanson, just because everybody's
Yes.
talking about him. We were able to get the idea that oh, excuse me. On the pace that the Kraken are on with him in the lineup would be a 109-point pace over the course of a whole season. I gave a little bit about what I think he brings to the lineup. I know we've talked about this on the podcast. We've talked about this at other points in time, but you look at a game like tonight where they're able to match him up against Tom Wilson. He's able to kind of go out there, make Tom Wilson largely a non-factor. I don't know that Tom Wilson was playing well anyway, but I mean, nobody on the Capitals really was. But being able to have somebody like that to go out there in these games when you are playing against somebody like a Tom Wilson, or even some of the guys on the back end that can shake it up and get into things like I think Jacob Chychrun is capable of doing that. Dylan McElrath for sure. It's just a nice thing to have, and it's something that the Kraken haven't had in the past. And the fact that you don't have to sacrifice speed or skill or offensive zone understanding with Melanson really makes him so valuable.
Yeah, and I think back to something that JT said on the broadcast when Edzo was saying that they needed to bring Melanson back some way. And JT was talking about how everyone in the lineup feels a little bit bigger when you have somebody in the lineup like a Jacob Melanson. And I think we kind of saw that in this game. And yeah, that's a pretty impressive points pace when he's in the lineup, 109 points. That's, I feel like, almost as good as their record or their points pace without Brandon Montour. But anyway, I do
Imagine
think
if you did both things combined.
I'd still rather not, but who knows? Maybe they'd be unstoppable. But I did love Jacob Melanson's game in this one. And of course, gets his first career fight, does a pretty good job against Brandon Duhaime.
Mhm.
That one was brewing for a long time. I have my own video of it, and it goes back a good 25 seconds before the fight as the two of them were kind of dancing around the ice through that whole shift. But I think that also illustrates something important about Melanson's game, especially tonight, and that is restraint. Because Melanson could have dropped the gloves at any point earlier on in that shift, but he didn't. He waited for Duhaime to really force the issue at that point, and it's at the point of a game where you're not going to switch the momentum. the game's over. You can drop the gloves. You can go ahead and do that. There were multiple opportunities for Jacob Melanson to fight in this game at what I believe would have been inopportune times, where the Capitals, I think he's starting to get a bit of a reputation now. The Capitals were kind of giving him extra shoves after the whistle, going at him a little bit. Not that Melanson wasn't inviting that sort of thing with the way he was playing, of course, with 7 hits in this one. I get it. But the restraint to make sure you're only going to do something like that if you're not putting your team in a bad spot, I think is really admirable. And just you look at the lack of penalty minutes from him all season, the fact that this is his first fight, I think that's actually pretty impressive. And we talked plenty about Melanson changing his game away from kind of the stupid way he would play when he was in juniors and coming up. The reason you were skeptical about him, I thought this was a Jacob Melanson masterclass as far as when to step in there and go the extra bit versus when not to.
Yeah, he's not reckless the way that he was before. And he's not undisciplined the way that he was before. And that's why he's in the lineup now. And he wasn't before. Like, I do very firmly believe that. He had to show last season in Coachella Valley that he was, he was different. He was reformed, whatever it is you want to say, that he had figured out that, yeah, at the American Hockey League level, coach is not going to play you and give you the minutes that you want if you're taking bad penalties out there. And he credit to him, changed his game. And after a season of that, he was able then to get this opportunity this year, and everything has gone as it's gone, which has been fantastic for both him and the Kraken when he's out there. I want to mention special teams real quick. Kraken get another power play goal. Keep that going. Out of 4 opportunities for them, they don't give up a shorty, which is
that's big.
Something
that's big.
worth noting these days, unfortunately. They do give up the one to Ovechkin coming off of that sequence where the hat trick goal was taken away. Who needs to defend the greatest goal scorer in NHL history? Backdoor. It's fine. It's fine.
I think the team was a little shell-shocked after the whole sequence there with the can and everything. Also, if you guys want, you can blame me for that one. The jinx master here.
If you're gonna let us, I guess.
Go. Yeah, I'll let you guys have this one. It's a 5-1 win. But I was talking to our buddy Scott, who was sitting next to me, and I was saying, if it didn't affect the result of the game, I wouldn't mind seeing an Ovechkin goal in this one, because it'd be cool to watch him in person break the NHL goals record. To say that even though it's his own, and he just keeps adding one onto it, it'd still be kind of cool to be able to say that. So I did say that very early in the game. It was scoreless at that point. And then Scott was negotiating. He's like, all right, well, no, but how about if it's like 3-0, then he can get one, I guess. I'm like, sure, I'll take that. And then that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. No, I guess that's something.
Bring it on, everybody.
I'll give you a hard time about it later. We were talking about Brandon Montour bobblehead night. How many players have had bobbleheads earlier? Alex Wenberg is still the only one to score on their bobblehead night, and Vyren, of course, coming in with the knowledge. 17 bobbleheads for the Kraken have been given out, 15 of which have been players, because of course there's the John Forslund and the Bowie bobbleheads in there. And of those 15 players, 11 of them have actually played in the game that their bobblehead was given out. So
that feels like a surprisingly low rate. You would expect it to be higher, I would think.
That's what I was saying. And that's, I think, why this is in here. Is I was talking about that earlier. I was like, it's kind of remarkable given how many bobbleheads the Kraken do each season. Like, they're very generous with the bobbleheads, which I think is a good thing, that it hasn't happened more than once, and that it was only Alex Wenberg that was able to get it done. I guess
noted goal scorer Alex Wenberg.
Right. I guess if, 4 out of the 15 players, nearly a third of the players, didn't even play in the game that they got their bobblehead, I guess that would skew the numbers a little bit and make it
also,
more kind.
You've also had one for each goalie, so that probably brings the numbers down a bit.
So there you go. So it's more like 1 and 9. And then if you want to take out like defensemen, particularly the guys that don't score a lot, Alexiak, Larson, it evens itself out. Stratic in here. Gotta ask the question, RJ. What was your favorite goal?
Oh man, favorite goal in this one. I think I'll go with the second Jared McCann goal, because it's just net front presence all over the place. It's Matty Beniers being exactly where he needs to be, finding a loose puck, kind of in his feet, making the heads up play to not just find the puck, but kind of throw it on net with knowing he has a player there and an opportunity, and McCann just kind of getting lost back door. that one just felt like it kind of ticked all the boxes as far as the way the Kraken have found success, and especially the way that line has found success, recently and kind of all season.
Yeah, that was gonna be the one that I was gonna go with. I'm
Sorry.
just trying to refresh here on the mechanicals. I couldn't remember if it was the first or the second one. But I'm gonna go with let's see. I mean, the one that you kind of can't go with is the Riker Evans one because it was just an own goal from from Tom Wilson, courtesy of him. I don't know. The second McCann goal is really my answer. I could talk about the others, but I'm getting a ridiculous amount of ads trying to watch the highlights off of NHL's website here, so I won't. I'll stick with that one. I talked a lot about Jared McCann earlier and his ability to adapt to defenses, to always kind of find the open spot on the ice, the soft spot in the defense, and the ability to find those areas to shoot the puck from. And yeah, he's just so good at it, so consistent with it, and it's why he always puts up the numbers that he does. Viren letting us know that Dave Jackson on Twitter said that the clock doesn't reset on penalties. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. If that's the rule, that's all right. There we go. So that's a good explanation then. If that, I mean, I'd love to just see the language in the rule book. Or is this just something that's known?
They're NHL officials for a reason.
I believe him. I'm not doubting him at all.
Because it would have to be both officials plus the scorekeepers table, which is another 2 people involved, plus the penalty box people are kind of involved.
That's true. They would. Somebody's going to know.
You're talking about 6 people, right? You're talking about 6 people who, their job is to know this rule book. They tend to get it right, even if it doesn't always make us happy. But thank you, Viren, for putting that in here.
Thank you, Viren. Yeah. Also, now I'm trying to think of all the weird ways that could, like let's say it's the end of a game or something, right? And the clock could expire, and you have the goal that would, let's say it's a tie game, 2 minutes to go, a penalty, high stick happens or whatever that they miss. The clock expires, or there's they score with 1 second left or something, right? That time doesn't come back on. I don't know. I'm just thinking of all the weird scenarios.
Such a specific scenario that has to happen. I mean, look, it's kind of.
Today's sounds far fetched, right?
I know.
Like there's a hat trick goal, hats hit the ice, the celebration has happened, all this stuff.
It's one of those things where it does feel like it's at least in theme with the idea of hockey having delayed penalties at all. Right? It's not like you get that time back if a game if the game clock runs out while there's a delayed call. Like it's not like that team then gets the power play.
I guess, but again, if the puck goes in and no one catches it, and then they go back and find that the puck did go into the net, it is a goal. They do put the time back on because the play has been stopped.
But that's not a penalty.
It for a stop it. It's not a penalty, no.
That's it. That's a goal. That's different.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think with penalties, yeah, I think the whole idea is that they just don't affect the clock.
With a delayed penalty, that's like the rule is that you're allowing the team to keep possession. It's not like it's something that's like if there is a review for an offside or a goalie interference or anything that takes anything off the board. I guess that's all goals, not penalties. But
well, again, the stoppage tonight could have just as easily been Jared McCann shoots it into Logan Thompson's glove, and then we get the penalty called, and it would be like kind of in a way no different than a normal delayed penalty, right? Other than just the Kraken
the Kraken had control of the puck for long stretches, yeah.
Right. But from a clock management standpoint, it's no different. So that's why I think it does kind of make sense.
Yeah, this kind of argument that we're taking too much time on a Red Glare podcast usually. I still maintain it makes no sense, but we should probably move on to other topics or let you rest, one or the other.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
It's not a fair fight right now.
It's the same as any delayed call. Like, because we've seen games end, team desperately needs a power play. They get the delayed call. They can't get the other team to touch up or whatever, right? Or the other team takes a sec to touch up. Refs have to call it because you could just, in theory, rest out a game. Like clock management is part of it. It's part of the sport, I think. I don't know. More love for Jacob Melanson in here. Let's see, and just so many people still talking about the sequence with the official there and everything.
Everyone.
No, I mean, it's because again, it's like an interesting scenario. You just don't see it that often. Cheryl asking, is Matty a point per game in 2026 now? I believe he is, and so is Jared McCann, I think, at least in the games that he has played, because they've just been on fire, RJ.
Yeah, they really have. And I mean, it's nice to get Jared McCann back. I mean, numbers wise, he's kind of climbing up that goals list despite having missed as many games as he has. Like, he could be in the running. Like, if not for Everly's amazing scoring season, McCann could be in the running to lead the team in goals this year, which is kind of nuts given how long he's been.
I know, but he's that good. He's that good. Kylie letting us know. Funny, our last 3 wins are against metropolitan teams. All teams from the Metropolitan Division, which is interesting. And then also here from Solid Octo Parakeet, Canner got the helmet, which makes it the first time 3 forwards in a row have had it. Which that kind of checks out the low event Lane Lambert world that we live in.
Yeah, and especially, you know, the helmet can be chosen for things like a big block or, things like that maybe can go to a defenseman or a goalie. I guess that checks out.
Yeah.
They also haven't scored. Yeah, they haven't scored much.
No, there's that component of it too. Blake asking, do we see left-handed goalies more often than I realize?
Well, interesting you refer to them as left-handed goalies.
Yes,
I won't open up that can of worms, but I know what you're talking about.
John Forsland on the broadcast called him a righty. He said he shoots right, is what he said. So that goes with me.
Okay.
That goes with my thoughts.
What you're telling me is there's no easy consensus here. But as far as I know what you mean by
you're going to say John Forsland's wrong? I will tell him that on Thursday if I'm there.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I dare you.
It's about time I'm the golden
And I'll be like,
hey,
Dylan's sick. He shouldn't be here. He's trying to get you sick.
That's true.
Counter threat.
It would be a short-lived moment for me.
So the question that was actually asked of us, do we see those goalies more often than we think? They are still pretty rare in the NHL. The Capitals, I believe, are the only team that has 2 of them. So maybe that's why it seems more common. But let's see, it's Thompson, Lindgren, Vejmelka. I can remember a bunch of old guys that are retired that are.
I was going to say.
I'm trying to think of who's still in the league. Now he's retired.
There's somebody else who bounces up and down, right? Like kind of a third guy, I think, for somebody.
I think it was Mike McKenna, and he's been retired forever.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculously old. I think there's like one other, but he might be in the AHL at the moment.
Okay. Oh, Bussy in Carolina.
Yeah. Okay, well, he's starting, but
yeah, no, I mean, he's not the guy who goes up and down. But yeah.
But yeah, I believe that there's 4. So that would be all 4. Ursa Roots, besides our goal scorers, which players stood out to you in this game?
Ooh, good question there. I mean, I think we already talked about Melanson so much, but really that whole line, I thought I was impressed by Freddie Gaudreau. Like, that was, I think, the best that he's looked as part of that, or the best that he's fit in as part of that line, which is nice to see because, with Ben Myers out, like, you wonder about the cohesion there, even though they kept scoring. But Freddie Gaudreau is a good answer. I think Riker Evans, and it's not even the goal really, but I think he was more physical than he would have been in a usual game. So I like that element of his game. There was a play where he was matched up against Ovechkin net front as the Caps were kind of working it back and forth at the point. He did not let Ovechkin get anywhere near a dangerous position and just kind of locked him up the entire time. And there was a point shot too, and I think it bounced out to Grubauer's left, and Evans still just had Ovechkin just tied up the whole time until someone else could go take the puck.
Yeah, no, he had a good one there. For me, I don't know, maybe this is cheap, but I'm going to say Philip Grubauer. I thought it was a really good game from Philip Grubauer. Yes, there was lots of weird bounces and stuff like that helped him out at times, but I felt like for a game that normally would have been set up for him to fail, right? And usually when we see these games where the Kraken dominate early, he doesn't get to see a lot of shots, only gets to see 4 of them in the first period. These are the games that tend to go off the rails for him. And outside of the ridiculous momentum swing that goes in favor of the Capitals there at the start of the third period, Grubauer was lights out. And like even that goal, like no goalie's stopping that. There's a reason that guy's got a billion of them. So I just think Philip Grubauer had a really, really strong game, despite it being the kind of game that he typically struggles in and self-admittedly says that he struggles in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if the Capitals defense hadn't been so horrendous in this one, leading the Kraken to be able to put up 5 and then, a couple that even got disallowed, that would have been more of a story in this
Mhm.
one. But yeah, Grubauer was solid, as he has been for a while. And I think it's getting to the point where we're just so used to it that it kind of fades into the background. But yeah, excellent again. Gets a lot of puck luck, gets some help from Vince Dunn, but sometimes you need that.
Yep,
I
definitely.
don't even think he needed it really. It's just sometimes you get that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Yes, and then that debate that created the whole
Oh boy.
debate around the which side is which for the goaltenders. Although we have from Byron Skarov.
Oh yeah. How did I forget that one? Yep. Should have
Yep,
remembered
yep.
that.
Brucey Lindgren, Thompson, Vamelka, Mirashov, and
Oh yeah.
Georgiev.
Georgiev is
I thought he
normal,
was. I thought
normal handed, whatever you want to
yes.
call it. He's yeah, the same as
Shoot.
most of the other goalies.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then from I thought so. I think that was in response to somebody else asking about that.
Okay.
And then Chuck, the Caps power play has been bad this year. Anything jump out to you as a reason after watching it tonight? Um, I actually didn't think that their power play looked that bad to me. I think that they do, as some teams when they have guys like this on their power play tend to, they rely a little bit too much on just trying to get Ovechkin open and in a position to score. But I do think like the idea of him kind of being closer to the net front and kind of being more backdoor rather than in his normal spot up by the faceoff dot is a kind of a nice change of pace for them. But I think like if anything, that's like the issue, right? Like, is that they sometimes tend to force it to him. But I actually didn't think that their power play looked that bad. One thing I wanted to mention earlier was obviously Chandler Stevenson gets called for the interference. He goes to the box. The Kraken survive the penalty kill without Chandler Stevenson being out there on the PK to take those faceoffs, RJ. But I will say they were basically in their defensive zone the entire time on that penalty. Like the Capitals were in the offensive zone the whole time. That was that way for both penalties from the double minor on the high stick from Maddie. Like it felt like their power play had a lot of good zone time. It was just that they only had the one opportunity where the play that they wanted to set up actually developed.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would add also is I wasn't overly impressed by a lot of the zone entries the Capitals had. And I think that part of it's just they don't have a ton of nobody who can really be a burner and kind of use speed to
Yeah.
threaten things. A lot of slower guys on that unit, and I think that's just a personnel thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And then from Kylie, and we could probably leave it on this. What will it take to get explanations of penalties in arena? Like many, that whole high stick thing was insanely confusing being there. What it would take is a game deciding, Stanley Cup deciding call
Yes.
that just leaves everybody speechless in the arena and nobody understands what's going on. But that's the level that it would take. No regular season game is going to change anything because situations, not exactly like tonight, but the idea of what happened tonight happens all the time. And it has not done anything to change the way the league thinks at all. It would have to take a internationally watched biggest game, biggest stage for them to take note of that and for them to think, hey, maybe when fans are paying, potentially 4 figures to go to a big game, we should provide them some sort of explanation when something weird happens.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that answer. I don't even think conference final would do it. I think it would have to be something Stanley Cup decided
Yep.
for them to put the finger on that.
Yeah, and Jason's saying the ref explainability stuff comes from the betting community. That's why the NFL is so transparent with injuries and these things. That is definitely part of it. I think that if on the gambling side they leaned on the league, maybe you'd see something. Obviously, the league is very welcome to take those additional revenue streams to have 2 prediction market partners officially with the league, right? They want their money, but one of the things is, yeah, if betting on hockey becomes a big thing, and that's the reason a lot of people end up watching the games, which is certainly something that's happened with all sports. You'd be shocked at the percentage of people that say they only watch it because they're gambling on it. Um, that would be something at some point, and maybe they feel like they have to do because you want in essence, if you want those dollars from the prediction markets and the gambling companies and FanDuel and all that stuff to come in, they need users who feel comfortable betting on those games. And if there's too many situations like tonight that starts happening too frequently, people will not feel comfortable betting on those games. Those companies don't want to then invest in the NHL, and the NHL loses out on a lot of revenue that they now come to count on. So that would be the other way it goes on.
Yeah, that's the trade-off that you usually need to have when you embrace gambling like this. Is it has to come with a lot more transparency. I think the NHL is trying to, I guess, have their cake and eat it too, and also not tell anybody where the cake went and how and when exactly.
Who ate it, in what room it
Yeah.
was eaten in, at what time was it eaten. No, they skate by, one could say,
Ah,
on the fact
cake
that
is the
they
cake is day to day.
yes uh it's an upper tier injury. They skate by on the fact that just they're the small league, and they can, they just don't get the same eyeballs and attention and pressures put on it that the NFL or the NBA leads. And
And that's
I
how they
think
like it.
that's how they like it. They sure seem to make a lot of decisions to make sure that they stay small, like that, and out of the way. So yeah, I think that's the situation there. But that's going to do it for Emerald City Hockey Post Game Live, presented by Queen Anne Beer Hall. What do you want to shout out from the beer hall, RJ? I shouted out the beignets because it's been too long since I've had one of those.
Oh, the beignets. Well, you know what? I'm getting more and more into wings, like into chicken wings. And
So it's
what?
2026 for you to get into chicken wings.
Yeah, you know I like the stuff after it's cool.
How much sports have you watched in your lifetime with just commercial after commercial?
Man, we could talk about this for an hour, but like my whole thing was that they weren't worth the effort. I didn't want to get my hands dirty. I'm like, why? I could just have like chicken tenders or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth the effort to go and do that. No, it's worth it. Like, and actually, the beer hall wings were a big part of that. Like having like whether it was like leftover wings, either like from your watch party, like the buffalo wings. Actually, you don't leave leftovers from other people, or like or like the lemon pepper wings. Oh my god. Anyway, it's worth it now. I've seen the light. Too late, but I'm not too late. I could still have them, but I've seen the light, and I'm probably going to be getting wings at the next watch party.
Yeah, no, they're definitely worth it, and especially at the beer hall. They're very generous with the portion that they give you, and the size of the wings. They're pretty big, like
Oh
they're
yeah,
good. Sometimes you go
and
places, you get the tiny little ones. It's not really worth it, but it's worth it at the beer hall.
and Wing Wednesdays. That would be tomorrow, wouldn't it?
It would. It would. Just
I
saying.
forget exactly what I think it's just like 99-cent wings. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
It is something like that. Yeah, it's a good deal. So
You've
definitely
taken
check
advantage
that
of
out.
it before, yeah.
Yep. Definitely check that out, everybody. That's going to do it for this post game live. Appreciate it, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.